since I laid my eyes on you, my baby. I just wanna make your dreams come true, my lady. If you low, I'll lift you up. Just let me know.
Welcome back, beautiful souls, to another episode of A Goddess Life podcast with myself, Erin, and your co-host, Anna. Today, we are diving into holding the paradox and also the liminal space or the space in between one way of being and another. And also when our heart is clearly taking us one way, sometimes there's stuff that happens in our mental space and in our mind that appears to be a conflict, and how we can move through that at this point in time and just holding space for that transformative time frame. It's a powerful path you are taking, and sometimes it feels dark, and sometimes we turn around, and sometimes we're in conflict, and sometimes we feel pulled in multiple directions, and sometimes we have to hold the paradox of both at the same time. So grab a cup of coffee, grab a cup of tea if you feel called, our beautiful souls who are listening to this podcast with us and joining us in this conversation. And I'm just going to let you grab the mic and share your powerful stuff with us.
Thank you. Before we dive in, I want to give tiny bit of backstory. People may know how powerful this is for me. I grew up in a household where you never spoke about feelings. You never showed feelings. You never had feelings. If you did, you were shown to your room. Be quiet. Keep it in. We don't do that stuff here. So of course that was what I learned, and I have moved through my entire life silent as a clam. I would not share. If anybody hurt me, I would just pull away. I would not say anything. If someone crossed any boundaries, I would not say anything. I would just pull away. I had relationships before where it was a major problem, but I never saw it as a problem. I just pulled away. And instead of going into the conversation and being present to what was happening, I just ended relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have been married for 10 years. And what I do believe a lot of people experience is that a marriage is really hard work, but it's an amazing ground to get to know yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I have been working on the most for the last couple of years has been to create safety within myself so I could express myself, to say no, or I don't want to do that. I have recognized that I have become better at it during fights and conflicts, but by being silent as a clam, you build up so much resentment,
Mm-hmm.
and it is poison to your own soul. I was the only one walking around really having such pain. When I started to know that, oh shit, I am part of the problem, that was when things started to shift. Yeah, but
Wow, Anna, can I just say wow to that? Because not many people are willing to recognize that and to see that it's always somebody else is the problem. Somebody else is doing it. Even that alone, I just want to say congrats, because that's not easy. That's a hard thing to do, to say, I'm actually part of the relationship, which means I'm part of the problem or the continuation of it. Listen, girlfriend, I just got to say hats off to you, because that moment, that awareness, that's the hardest part.
yeah, it was because after that initial shock that I was part of this thing that I thought was toxic. Oh shit, I am equally as toxic as this other person. I started to be able to say things like, no, I don't want to do that. I started to say, not say back, but I started to sort of answer. When things were said, I started to answer. Both of us just had to sit down and have a big talk. And we started on Friday, and we are recording this on a Monday, and we are still not finished.
Mm-hmm.
I could, at the same time as I was triggered, I was angry, I was crying, I could also witness myself in those emotions. I could feel the anger in me, and I could express it without going sort of black and not be
Mm-hmm.
present. I could be hysterical and crying, but I could also see how I was genuinely expressing myself and not sort of using it against the situation.
Right.
And I was saying the things that I needed to say, things I have never said before, but I said them from a place of love and respect for myself. So now on the Monday, I can look back on every word I've spoken this weekend, and I feel so proud of the words that I've said, because I'm like, I've said the words I had inside me. So yes, I've cried. I've been angry, and today has been sort of this massive hangover day. But this morning, when I was walking to work, I could feel this amazing, expansive space
Mm.
that was within my heart, and how my body and my energy, it was so much lighter. Things have been shed this weekend, and not just relating to this relationship, but so much more. Yes, we are still in this shitty situation where everybody that's sort of ended a relationship recognize it's shit. It's the worst thing to stay here.
Feels bad. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, I am so excited for this feeling that is growing within me. My body and my energy, everything is sort of, we need to go this way. We need to go forward. We need to start something new.
So would you say that in expressing it and saying the things you would normally say and finally allowing yourself to authentically express what you want and what you don't want, that that is the very reason that you feel this way? And it's, yeah, it's a conversation, but that conversation is a buildup of an entire lifetime of not doing it. It's like you just freed your whole last 4 decades. Would you say
Yes,
that that's appropriate? It's what I'm hearing.
yes, it feels so big and expensive. So this is not just like the last couple of years. This is amazing. And
Mhm.
I can feel the energy flow within me. And I even did yoga today because I
Yay.
wanted to do it. There was nothing like, oh, I don't have the energy, or I just, I really wanted to do it.
Interesting. So they do say the more you intertwine or integrate the freedom of the soul and the expression of your own soul, not from a stand of manipulation, but just in a sacred honoring of your own experience and how you feel, that the body begins to respond to it, one with the lightness, but also movement moves energy. So it makes sense, like when we're going through something heavy, some like I know I too will feel stagnant or not do the things that would move the energy, but that's because I'm dealing with an emotional aspect. And sometimes once it gets free, suddenly I feel that energy to be able to begin doing it. Suddenly I'm ready to go places. I'm ready to go dancing. I'm ready to do yoga. I'm ready to do these things. But it's also because I have the energy to, because I've released all that heaviness that was causing that friction or stagnation. What an amazing feeling that must have been this morning, Anna.
It really is. And it's almost like I feel bad for feeling so good in a situation like this.
Oh,
I do not feel bad. I do not do it, but I can feel the inkling. I should be more sad that I'm in this situation. I should be sort of
oh,
more down and
think about that dynamic, right? I totally hear you. I feel like I should feel bad about feeling good. Don't you dare. Just like as a friend, don't you dare feel bad for feeling good, because that's also part of the old pattern, right? Like, how can I feel bad? How can I feel great? Sorry, if that person over there is feeling bad. But I also feel like you need to feel good because that's how you feel. And that actually is more of a benefit to the person who's not feeling so great, as a confirmation they can arrive at that too, versus, oh, maybe I should feel bad. And then because they feel bad and they'll feel better if I feel bad right along with them. Or, oh, yeah, there's a lot in there. Oh, Anna, I love you so much. That's a natural thing. That's something I felt along my journey too, feeling like I have to feel bad because I feel good and nobody else is feeling good and they haven't done that. So maybe I should just put myself on the back burner and go back to where they are just to sustain it and maintain it. But it never works. I
Hmm.
always end up ending it, walking away, and embracing my path, because that is for my highest good and it's for the other people too.
Yeah,
What did you do with it after that? I'm just curious. There's a lot of
um
wisdom in what you're saying. Side note, then.
I have just been enjoying the feeling today.
Mm,
Uh, I am, of course, in my job. I could feel that my cup was sort of full with stress, but at the same time, two situations which before has triggered the living hell out of me happened within 5 minutes. Both of
mm.
them. Like I felt this genuine anger. I just felt it, and then I sort of calmed down and I just choop choop.
You
Like,
responded rather than reacted.
yeah, I would not have responded so easily if I didn't have sort of this spaciousness
Free
and
energy.
yeah.
Oh, interesting. I love when you share these things on, and thank you for being so vulnerable, because I do believe that in sharing our own experiences, we get to see the pearls. And it's also how we have connection with others, is through shared experiences. And sometimes the connection's not about, hey, we had the same experience and felt the same way. Sometimes we create even broader connections when we're able to hear another person's viewpoint or their experience or how they perceived it, because they are different. And I love when you share these things, because I feel like so many, I'm seeing this like clam that you were talking about. You were closed up like a clam, and now the clam's open. It's like all these pearls are rolling out of it that have been sitting in there in the grit, being formed and shaped and molded, and now the clam is opening, and all these pearls that nobody really realized were in there, they're all just coming flooding out. And I think that that's incredibly powerful to understand that that is us as humans, right? It seems the bud of the flower, the clam that opens. What's inside the clam? It's the pearl, or that sweet oyster you might eat. But the whole purpose of me sharing that, or illuminating that, or pointing that out, or it's becoming really aware to me, is because as you were talking, what I saw was this one giant firework of doing something differently, speaking in a way you didn't speak before. Because remember, Mars is so active right now, which is your masculine energy. And Mercury shifted into Virgo, I think last week. If Mercury's in Virgo, and I know you're double Virgo, baby, double Virgo, that's going to have an extreme shift and change. It's September 22nd and 2:22 on my clock as a confirmation of this. I'm zinging to it right now. I don't know why, but that's what they're showing me. Sometimes those things are validation or confirmations that we're on the right track. The imagery I got was on the weekend was like this giant firework where your masculine energy suddenly turned a different way. It spoke a different way. It shifted a different way. And your entire masculine, inner masculine, all these mini fireworks. You know, when you go to see the fireworks and there's a big giant ones, but then you have the ones where there's a giant one and then these offshoots. They're showing me yours was like this giant firework in the middle on the weekend, and right now is all the offshoots. That's what they're showing me. I'm seeing boom, boom, and they're offshoots of variations or perceptions or ways of being, ability to not respond and respond. That's directly connected to the identity that you just blew through as a firework on the weekend, not because you're causing a firework, but because your masculine energy just totally, I want to say, annihilated a structure that you had been living with for 4 decades in a matter of a weekend, simply by choosing to authentically express yourself, not to manipulate, not to blame, not to shame, but just to say, this is how I feel, is life changing. It's inevitable that all these mini offshoot fireworks are going to happen because they were variations of the old you that didn't do that. So they show up so you can blow through that too with ease and flow. And sometimes when we express things we didn't express before, we choke on our words, right? What we want to express. Sometimes we choke on the pain of our words. Sometimes we choke because somebody finally stood up and said some words and we weren't expecting it. And what do we do with that now? Because that's different. It's really that visual, I feel like, is a confirmation that every time we do something a little bit different, particularly with Mars, it's our masculine energy. It's fire. It's where we take action. It is bold. And for a lot of us who have not been able to take actions or speak the words that are truly in our hearts or honor even how we feel, to suddenly do that naturally activates all the areas in our lives or ways in which, subtle and maybe bigger, that was in alignment with the old non doing it or not expressing or not communicating. Those all get triggered at the same time for you to go check, 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 check. And I feel like it's reclaiming your power to affirm yourself, to know that your words matter. And what you're talking about, Anna, is not this is not like a simple, as you would say, do I buy a red car? Do I buy a blue car? These are life, soul, relationships, lessons, patterns, ways of being, people that we love. But sometimes we know our lessons and our time together is coming to a close. And those aren't easy decisions. They're not, because we're considering so many things and we're both shifting in our identity. And I do feel like marriages are a lot of work and relationships are a lot of work, but they become easier when everybody's ready to do their part and grow. And when one is growing and one is not, sometimes that is the ending of that dynamic, not because we're bad, but because we're changing. Like, I know for me, Anna, I can't even hold friendships, even acquaintances. There's very little things that I can hold personally with someone who is more committed to a certain level or way of being or way of thinking or a story than they are committed to their own empowerment, their own freedom. Like, if somebody's not willing to consistently have awareness, consistently grow into a place where they feel good, and they want to keep clinging on to something that I'm already growing out of or I've already grown out of, I can't maintain those relationships because I have to mm, be in their dynamic of energy all the time in order for them to sustain that identity. So it's interesting because I do find that even marriages and relationships, like they say, it's a contract till death do us part. And that's part of why it's so hard. Like, some people, they work through their marriages and they both end up growing and evolving. And that's a possibility. And other marriages are not meant to evolve together. They're actually a contract stemming from a previous life that was re-entered in this life to bring forth certain things. So it's all supposed to be. But some contracts are made to be broken because that you breaking it, that's why you made the contract, so that you would break it, so that you would empower yourself and ultimately empower the other person who begins their journey and does their shifts in this way. Yes, we're sometimes breaking the contract is fulfilling the contract. And it's what you're doing isn't breaking a contract. I just say that because I feel like I know in the Western world and in a lot of different teachings and belief systems here, we think that marriage is a perfect thing. If we get married and we get divorced, then we failed. But what if that's not true? What if that was meant to fail, quote unquote? Thus, it was a success in order to propel us in the unfolding of our own empowerment and growth and our fulfillment, because I care more about fulfillment than I do maintaining a contract with somebody that is deeply unfulfilling. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that your relationship is fulfilling or unfulfilling. And I'm not even talking about your relationship. I'm actually talking about general dynamics for people and some of my own experiences. But I'm sharing that in that way because what you're sharing holds a lot of weight. And it's not something that's just like a simple decision or I've outgrown you. So it's not like that. It's looking at something we've made a commitment to and recognizing when our commitments have changed. Also exploring if you can both change together into a new commitment on a new level, or if these commitments are asking you both to go a different way. Those are life decisions. And when you have children involved, even more consideration, more care goes into them. And I just feel like you're right. A lot of people are going through this. Almost all the people connected around me, I notice that many of them are going through significant deaths of commitments. Some of them are commitments in their businesses. What they thought it would be, something shifted and changed, and now they either have to let it go or evolve. In familial relationships and sibling relationships, you are not the only one right now who I've had conversations with that are having this friction where they're growing and stepping into their power. There's friction there because they've changed. There is going to be friction because it used to be this way, the status quo. And when one shifts, the other has the opportunity to begin to shift well and choose to grow together or evolve on your own. Therefore, you get to grow together or to go separate ways. And neither is right or wrong. We're in the middle of the bridge, I guess you could say, for a lot of people. And that creates the paradox and it creates the heart mind conflict. And when you feel the freedom, it's almost like we have to have a time for the wisdom to rest. We have to integrate that energy because now your whole body is just going to start shifting and moving differently. It's going to be sensing differently. Your mind is going to start thinking differently. And when you open that door and you make a change like that, that changes everything, every dynamic, how you operate and work, how you speak to your kids, how you look at yourself in the morning, what you do for yourself. Again, that Mars energy that's really active. It's been active all of September, in all honesty, but I always perceive that as our inner masculine, the fire action outward kind of an energy from an internal perspective of a planet. What does this planet offer? What does it share? What's its wisdom? What's it teaching me? Where do I need to grow with it? And when we have not been able to voice our true expression, to support ourselves, to act on our behalf, and we suddenly start doing that, that's like complete restructuring, reforming, re-strengthening, realigning, and redefining of our masculine energy, which is, I think this, do I say it? I feel this, do I express it? I want this, do I go towards it? That's significant. And I thank you so much for sharing this because I feel like in conversations we get to really explore the dynamics. And I also feel like not many people would share in the most beautiful, vulnerable, grounded, and self aware way that you do. And I need to take a moment to honor that because that's really special.
Yeah, thank you. It feels good to share. I want I want everybody to feel the spaciousness and freedom that I'm feeling right now. And
Is that good?
yeah, it's so
Mm-hmm.
good. If
Mm-hmm.
if this is what you get from speaking your truth, I am like, please do it. Try and do it. It's so worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And I also wanted to be aware of your own participation in a relationship, not necessarily always holding space for the other person, but in this type of talks, or like these serious talks, to actually sit and listen to what the other person is saying, not just hearing the words, but where are the words coming from? What is the energy that is sent with the words? And are the words true? And
Mm-hmm.
are they true to me? That also made me feel more sort of connected in the talk because I could decipher what was coming through. I could feel when, oh, he's too triggered now. I don't need to think about this. And okay, here he is saying something that is coming from the depth of him. This I need to see this. I need to witness this, and to like do this work simultaneously as you talk.
That's a skill, my friends, to be, and it only happens when you're completely present without that anticipatory thing that you're talking about. That's a skill. That's a skill that not very many people have, I feel like, as well. Because it's not easy. We all want to be recognized. We all want our viewpoint to be affirmed. And that is 1000% a skill. And you can only do that when you're willing to be present in the moment without thinking about your response to somebody while they're talking. That's not presence, right? You have to be fully able to listen, which then allows you to have the awareness because you're not tied to a thought about it already, an emotion or something else. You're just there flowing with it. Presence provides that kind of awareness without actually thinking about it. Did you think about it, or was it you in the aftermath of it realizing that's what you were doing?
I'm so thankful because I have a lot of tools. So I have to say I did then like a clearing, a protection spell on us like every
Mhm.
30 minutes and on our house and on our son. And I did I did ground myself like every half hour, and I connected to my higher self, like so I could feel the flow. And by now I've done that so much, so I completely trust when I feel that I am connected above and beyond. I'm able to sort of surrender into the talk because I know that the words that come out of my mouth are the exact words that needs to be said.
Beautiful.
And I know that
Beautiful.
they will be of integrity and said with love
That's powerful. So it almost became natural.
almost. I don't
I
think I
say
could have.
almost, wait. I say almost natural, but what you're describing is it, you work at it, right? And then it becomes natural. And then it becomes so natural. That's the autopilot operating in that soul body as one. Your higher self, no longer your higher self, but naturally flowing through you as yourself, now embodied. Interesting. Almost natural. Natural. That's the point for that to become natural. It's important to have hard conversations. We get to reclaim our power. We get to unveil what we truly feel and what we truly think. But it's only when we're willing to have a hard conversation. Just to really illuminate that parallel, I was having a conversation with another family member this morning, and they were saying all these things. And I had this moment where I was like, it's not about those things. You need to get that out of the way. But this is about this over here, which is much, much deeper. And it's about you and what's really underneath all of this stuff you're actually saying. And I do feel like that is how we get to the truth of it, when we're willing to take away all the stuff on top. Maybe we need to say your frustrations, all that. Once you get that out of the way, it's almost like you've taken the lid off of the depths of you so that you can actually see you rather than being distracted by, oh, this and this thing, and I didn't get to say this and all those things. So very, very similar. And that is what it is. When we get that out of the way, then we do get to see each other. But most people, when they're getting that out of the way, they get stuck there. That's what I feel like.
Yeah. Instead of a good feeling because of all the things that we talked about,
Hmm.
but I'm seeing dipping back into that surface level anger.
I'm
S-
hearing
Yeah.
patience, dear heart. Not everyone has done the work that you have done. Not everyone is ready to unveil it all. Not everyone is ready to release. It takes time, it takes integration. And because everybody is coming from a different place with different wounds, some people move through it quickly and effortlessly because they've done the foundational work. Whereas others come to it in those moments, they have the experiences, but then it's inevitable that they'll dip down into those, back into those things, because they weren't doing that necessarily conscious shadow work. They've just been operating, and now they've been introduced to the shadow and the light and the shadow illuminating it. Now they're going to be able to do the shadow work, but you can't do the shadow work if you don't dip down into it. And you wouldn't dip down into it if the shadow wasn't there waiting to reveal its pearl. For all we know, Anna, in 6 months, you may say, both of us grew and it's amazing. And we both elevated together and we changed our lives. And I'm happier than I've ever been. You never know. That's why I say this, right? And side note, sometimes, sometimes, or some people believe that after working with me, they leave their spouses. But that's not true. It's they step into their power. And when you step into your power and you're in a relationship with somebody, that dynamic of the relationship changes because they've changed. So I just kind of want to throw it out there that it's interesting that I want to, but I know that that's a perception that some people may have. But it's not about leaving somebody or ending a relationship. It's about growth, evolution, and everybody changing for the highest good.
Yeah. If two person can work together and do this evolution together.
Oh, absolutely. When you get aligned with somebody who's willing to not only perceive themselves, but perceive themselves in relationship to you in a new way every single day, every single month, every single level, that's like the ultimate partner in crime. That's like the ultimate thick as thieves together, they would say, as two people who are in that kind of a dynamic. That to me is glorious, whether it's a friendship, a romantic relationship, whether it's in your career or your business, to have those dynamics, those mindsets, those that willingness to keep growing and growing and deepening and getting higher and higher and getting closer and closer. That is priceless. When two people are aligned and they both have that dynamic, even if they're not in the same mindset, but they both have that energetic alignment, pure magic happens because both are willing to surrender and both are willing to grow and both are willing to have an equal seat at the table. One can speak and the other can speak, and both are willing to listen to the other, respect the other, and grow with the other. If that is not an exquisite thing, I don't know what is. Sorry, maybe that's just my idealism coming out. But after having multiple relationships, the ones that fail and the ones that succeed, and I use those terms lightly, ones that end, I want to say ones that end or I have to end versus ones that I can continue to grow with, those are the differences. I also feel like we live in a paradoxical world. There are many paradoxes. So a lot of times when we look at, I'm both holding space for my heart knows it's going this way, but my mind is like, but you're not supposed to go that way because this person will say this and you should feel guilty for that. There's like, that's the inner conflict. And when the heart and the mind are completely aligned and at peace, magic happens because all the energy is centered and focused on something that is clear, purposeful, in alignment. Even if you don't know the next steps, your heart and your mind are aligned to go to the next step. So I feel like this is also a time frame for a lot of people in the collective where we're sitting in these conflicts with ourselves between where we want to go, what we truly desire, and what we feel or think, rather, we should be feeling or shouldn't be feeling in accordance with the way we used to operate or how other people will perceive us if we simply say what we want to say. And not only that, our own perception of ourselves are changing our own identity. You can hold the conflict, but my God, it has a lot of suffering in it. You can sit there for a long time. Or you can kind of lean into that conflict and say, where's the actual conflict stemming from? Because it's usually when your mind is conflicting with a truth of what you want or a truth of who you are or who you want to be. You cannot hold the conflict and also resolve it. You hold the conflict, but only so that you can have awareness of it, to deepen your understanding of it, in order so that you can hold the resolution or the solution or the coherence of the heart and the mind together. Sometimes in the dynamics you're talking about, because twice now I've had 2 relationships. I have 3 children, and my oldest daughter, she is from my first relationship, and Ava and my other child, my son, they're from another relationship, and those are both relationships I had to end. But my goodness, I have such gratitude for them because they're the reason that I even had the opportunity to see myself, to see how I viewed myself, to grow. And it's just amazing to look at it from that capacity. So, what other people might deem as a failure, I actually entered those so that I could fail at that identity of me that maintained that lack of expression, the giving away of myself, the tolerance of just doing whatever anybody else wanted so that they could be happy. That's what they broke in me. They didn't break me, they broke an illusion and a facade of an identity that I was holding that I didn't need. And they were some of my greatest gifts. I have such deep love for them. Frustration, yes. Irritation, yes, along the way. There's friction and growth because it's new and it's breaking down and building up. But coming to the other side of both of them, they were both very different. They are very different people, which is also interesting. And I played a role in all of them. I also looked at myself in all of them. I also made choices based on who I wanted to be and who I didn't want to be. But because I recognize my role in the problem with both of them in 2 totally different energies. So standing over here, like I have been unmarried and single by choice for a number of years. And that's because I value my level of growth and where I'm going, what I'm doing, over the need to be in a relationship with somebody to satisfy a certain feeling for a moment or an energy. Like, I don't want to be in relationships with people where I'm having to go back into those dynamics because I've outgrown them. So it's interesting to look at these things because looking backwards, they're the reason that I will not tolerate less than what I deserve. Isn't that a gift? What a gift they gave me. They're the reason that I value myself enough and I value what I bring to the table in relationships enough that I will not maintain any engagement with relationships that do not see that value or do not contribute equally to the table. That's because of them. That's because every relationship, family, friends, romantic I've ever had, it's because of all of them. What a gift all of that has been. And isn't that the sand and the grit of the pearl and the clam? But when you're in it, in those throes, you're handling it much better than I did. Side notes. Like, I'm thinking to myself, girl, you are something else. And I don't think you even know it, because when I look back at my ways of dealing with it, and really they were just the only way that I knew how, and the only tools that I had at the time, which really was nothing other than I'm going to die a great death of myself and not fulfill my purpose if I do not leave, in some circumstances. But not many people have that kind of grace, that kind of groundedness, and that kind of awareness in this situation. And I feel like that speaks to the amount of work that you've already done. Like, I know you've spent years doing shadow work, working with the intuitive realms, working with the self, working with the psychological aspects, working with ritual. I know that you've done those things for a number of years, and that actually laid the foundation to be able to move through it in that way. You're identifying that level of doing it. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
There's no trauma, there's no blame and shame, there's no you're taking from me and I'm taking from you. It's a simple awareness of I am changing. Here's what I'm changing into. Here's how I feel, which naturally you would allow space for somebody else to do that because you've allowed space for yourself. If you can't give yourself that space to do the growth, you definitely cannot listen to somebody else as they're moving through growth.
Yeah, I have to say I have thought about it's like the 3 last years. I thought of, "Holy shit, I am part of this."
Oh, yeah. Right? So
Yeah.
that brings me to something else, and this is an old saying, and it may resonate with you and it may not. I know it has resonated with me at different times, and I've witnessed it in other people's relational dynamics. And everybody's relationship is different. So this is definitely not a one size fits all. But I'm being reminded of that saying that women leave emotionally before they physically leave, and men leave physically before they have emotionally left it. Now, that's not always true. I just want to be super clear. That is kind of a generalization and is not a one size fits all. And that's not the case for how men operate in general, nor how women operate in general. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. But I'm illuminating that not because of the gender aspects of it, but rather to point out, looking at the style of somebody of what you've just described, you have worked yourself up to leaving emotionally and mentally preparing yourself before you physically leave.
Mm.
I have done that as well.
Mm.
One relationship, I did that. The other one, I knew I had to physically leave and I would have to deal with the emotions of it afterwards. It was just the circumstance. I had to do that. But notice that you've been preparing yourself. You've been thinking about that. You've been maintaining that for a number of years. And then finally, you come to the place where I'm ready to have this conversation. I feel strong enough and grounded enough in myself and in my desire for my life and ultimately theirs as well to actually come to the table and have this difficult conversation. Had you done that 6 years ago, they're saying sometimes if you come to the table too early or too soon to something, and sometimes you have to, it needs to be in that moment, but if you come too soon to the table, before you've integrated, before you're actually ready to do it, sometimes it can catapult you back into it to deepen it even more. And I've done that too. Side note.
Mm.
I've done that too. So it's interesting to note those things.
We are starting new cycles, new
Oh.
beginnings, new eras.
And the new beginnings often happen when you have a hard conversation or you allow something to end or change, which is an ending. The moment something changes, that signifies something new is beginning and something has ended, not because it's a finality, but it's just changed form. These conversations are a way to perceive something greater, another door opening, a greater possibility or potential. It's all of these things combined because all of those things are part of the process. You can't see a new way if you didn't first discuss it or felt validated in where you are. And if we go back to the beginning, we all want to be recognized and validated and understood, if not by other people, at the very least by ourselves. And oftentimes we want other people to understand that because we're trying to give ourselves grace and understand it in ourselves. Thank you so much for being here, beautiful souls. I feel like it's time to play. I know when I get into this deep stuff, there are these moments where I'm like, I need to go play. I need to just let it be. I need to just let it integrate. I am shifting, I'm changing, and a lot is happening. And even wisdom, as a card I'm being referenced, even wisdom needs to rest, right? Even in growth, there has to be a time frame where we just sit with the energy and we integrate, where we're not constantly growing and thinking about it. Now we're just going to play. Now we're just going to flow. Maybe I'm going to go for a walk. Maybe I'm going to read a book. I'm just going to let it all go there and let it just trickle through. And seeing the braiding of the Empress, the intertwining with the vastness of the goddess as part of you and you as part of her, to stabilize the energy. Anna, thank you. Amazing as
Thank
always.
you.
And beautiful souls, we will see you on the next episode.
Since I lay my eyes on you, my baby, I just wanna make your dreams come true, my lady. If you low, I'll lift you up. Just let me know when it gets tough. Do you feel the way